Alrighty, beautiful and strong people, let's get the ball rolling with lesson 1, alignment. The squat begins before you even unrack the bar. And you might be asking, why is that? Because, you're not squatting, you're not really squatting. You're not squatting indeed, but you're actually getting into position. So we want to make sure that whatever position we're trying to achieve during the squat, we want to be able to actually reinforce it with correct technique and with using the equipment. Because if the equipment is not good and we can't really find that sweet spot position, it's going to be very hard for us to actually be able to set up properly. So before we're actually diving a little bit deeper, we have to understand the bar placement, because pretty much that's your contact point with the bar. Okay, so where the bar is going to be paramount to how your joints are actually going to move. This is going to matter a lot based on your build. But because I don't want you guys to get into the nuances of changing your technique right now in this very moment, trying to move from high bar to low bar just because it benefits your build a little bit better, I want you guys to just remain with the one you're actually used to. So if you're a high bar squatter and you've been doing high bar for quite a while now, just stick with it. If you're a low bar squatter and you've been doing low bar for quite a while now, remain with the low bar. Okay, so don't change the bar placement yet, but just start to understand the nuances of how the bar placement is actually going to influence your squat. Okay, so the high bar is pretty much the first example in which the bar is around our mid to upper traps. When we're having the bar in this place, when we're squatting, we're going to have a more so upright torso. Now we're going to talk about why having an upright torso isn't always the best possible idea. But just as an idea, you're always going to stay a little bit more upright when you're going to do high bar. Low bar, on the other hand, the bar is going to be placed on top of your rear delts. Okay, and this is going to shift your center of mass a little bit more towards your toes. So you will have to hinge a little bit more. You will have to let your torso fall a little bit forward to be in a stable position. Most powerlifters are going to use the low bar position just because it allows you to use more of your glutes into the movement. This is not necessarily a general rule of thumb. I don't believe that every powerlifter should be doing low bar. Indeed, there are very few high bar squatters that are actually competing at a high level, but that still doesn't mean that you should fall 100% to the category of doing low bar. And we're going to see why. And of course, the mid bar position is just a blend between both of them. Okay, so not necessarily having the bar on your upper traps, but nor having them very close to your rear delts. Okay, so just somewhere in between. So now we're going to talk a little bit about equipment and how the equipment is actually going to influence tremendously your ability to set up. If your equipment does not allow you to get into a proper setup, you're going to be in a handicap because your setup is going to represent 80% of your squat. So the general rule of thumb that I want you guys to actually take home with you is you want to set up in position, stay in position during the unrack, during the descent, during the ascent, and finish in position. So while you actually have the bar, you're first starting to place the bar on your back, you need to get under position. You need to get into the position which you're also going to be squatting. So if your rack height is not going to allow to do that, it's going to be very difficult for you. So if the rack height is too high, it's going to force you to actually shrug and lift yourself on your tiptoes. So that's going to be a big lack of stability. You're going to have a lot of instability into the setup, and it's just going to prepare you for a failure in that case. If it's too low, however, it's going to waste some of your energy because you're pretty much half squatting the bar. Okay, so you're going to notice this position in here. This is a high position, this is a low position. Ideally, we would like to find the position in which we can wedge under the bar smoothly and we have minimal vertical movement. Okay, so just enough so we can actually wedge under the bar and pull the bar into us, but not as much that, we need to actually half squat our way up to actually bringing the bar out of the J hooks. If you're in a situation, however, in which this is your only chance, like you have a rack that it's here and another one it's here, so you're just either too high or too low, I would always choose too low. I'm going to tell you why. Even though you're wasting some energy and you're going to feel like you've lost like 50% of your potential to squat big weights, it's still better than being too high. Because if you're too low and you have to almost do like a half a squat, you can still get into a good position. You can still get into a really solid position. You can set up properly. You're just losing a little bit of energy. So choose this one if you're in between these two, and you should be fine. The best option you have is to just change the gyms. If you have any other gym in which you can actually squat properly, that would be great. But if not, always go with this option. Getting into the midfoot principle, which is absolutely paramount to your alignment and your stability. The bar has to always stay stacked over your midfoot. Your midfoot point is pretty much your balanced point. It's the point in which your body has the strongest leverage on its joints. Okay, so your joints have the best leverage to actually generate force against the barbell. Your midfoot position is pretty much the place in which you're finding balance, you're finding equal distribution of weight between your big toe, small toe, and heel. So if you're feeling like the stability shifts a little bit more towards your toes, you're actually going to start to fall forward, like in this image. If the weight distribution is actually going to go more toward your heel, you're actually going to fall back. Okay, so it's important from the moment in which you're unracking, making sure that the bar is actually tracing around your midfoot, which is where you would, for most people, just around your shoelaces. You want to make sure that before you're actually descending, you're balanced. Okay, so always check your balance. If you're feeling like you're a little bit too much on your heels, shift a little bit forward. If you're feeling like you're too much on your toes, shift a little bit back. So you make sure that you're within your midfoot. When you're going down into descent, if you made sure that you're, placed properly, the bar is within your midfoot, you're going to find an easier time to actually remain into your midfoot. So when you're going down, the bar has to be within your midfoot. It doesn't necessarily need to always stay in a fixed point in the midfoot. Midfoot is range. Okay, so it says as a general rule of thumb, midfoot is going to be a range. Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly this point. It's anywhere to around here based on how your body is actually moving in space and time. So making sure that the bar is actually placed within your midfoot is going to prepare you when you're going down into the descent to remain within the midfoot. What's going to help you to actually remain and hold the position into your midfoot is going to be your foot root, which we're going to actually explore a little bit later. But always imagine that you're having a camera, and always record yourself from the side. But always imagine that you have like a camera, and within that camera you have like your third eye, in which you're always checking while you're going through the execution, you're checking your midfoot position. So is the bar within your midfoot? So being aware of this line where the bar is actually tracing through the midfoot is going to tremendously improve your squat technique. What is going to be absolutely paramount to putting these nuances into practice is going to be patient. We will have to deliberately be slow with the setup. So we have the time to actually generate force. We have the time to actually generate tension. We have the time to actually get into positions, and we have the time to actually perceive those positions. So as a general rule of thumb, we don't want to rush. We want to be methodical with whatever we're actually doing. Methodical beats fast. Speed is going to come with patience. The more mastery you have through the technique, the more speedier you can actually be, because your body is already fine-tuned with the movement, and it can actually go through that methodical process much faster. So you're going to see an example of me just doing a high bar squat. how methodical I am within the setup. Okay, so getting under the bar, checking the bar. Remember the midfoot position. So the bar is within my midfoot. You're going to notice when I'm actually unracking if I were to actually, put a point in here and just go all the way down, it would actually trace within my midfoot. So I'm wedging under the bar. I'm pushing myself into the bar while I'm actually pressing the ground. My brace is already locked in, which we're going to learn a lot about the brace. I'm going to unrack, but notice, whoops, I'm going to get back. Notice that once I actually unrack, I let the bar settle. Okay, so I'm not rushing, I'm letting the bar settle, because especially if you're really quick with bringing the bar out of the rack, there will be, based on the barbell, there will be some moving of the bar. So you want to actually remove that, you want to negate that moving of the bar, so you can actually hold that stability. And watch what I'm actually doing with the step out. So I'm rooting one of my feet back, bringing the other one, and after that getting into position. So I'm very patient with each step that I'm actually taking, because every step has a purpose. If you're rushing the setup, you're going to get with an unstable squat. And an unstable squat means more injury risk and a lot more leakage of power. So as a performance point that we should be taking under account during this alignment section is the grip width, because the grip width will be determined by your bar placement. So if you're a high bar squatter, you're obviously going to have a little bit more leeway. You probably can come a little bit closer with your grip. You can also, go a little bit wider, but you're actually going to lose stability doing so. While on the other hand, if you're a low bar squatter, you kind of need to open up your grip a little bit more. But the general idea is that we want to find a position in which we can actually create that shelf on which the bar should actually sit on. In order to do that, we need to have the grip close enough so we can actually build that tension around our back, so we can create that shelf. But we don't want it to be way too close to the point in which we're actually losing it. So if we're going way too close, we're going to get our scap jammed, which means that we can't really generate that force. We can't really create that contraction of our back. And if it's too wide, it's just going to be way too loose, and we're not going to be able to actually hold that tension in there. So it's very important to explore that based on your position of the bar on your back, but also on your shoulder mobility. If your mobility isn't really that good, high bar probably will be your best bet in terms of bar placement and just having the grip a little bit wider. If you have the mobility, however, and your shoulder mobility is absolutely great, you can go high bar, you can go low bar, and just find that position, that sweet spot very easily. You can start with pinky on the ring and just adjust based on where you're actually finding that sweet spot. Now, as grip options, you may choose a full grip, which most federations allow a full grip of the bar. Okay, so you want to grip the bar just like this. In some federations, such as USAPL, IPF, you can actually have the thumb over the bar, which this kind of position allows you a lot more freedom of movement around your shoulder. So ideally, I would recommend this kind of grip a little bit more than this one. Choose based on comfort and stability, but try your best to not neglect your shoulder mobility work, because this is going to be absolutely fundamental to making sure that you can actually get in the best possible position with your squat. So if you know your shoulder mobility is actually trash, you need to actually address that. So in summary, we talked about alignment and how the alignment is pretty much your foundation to your setup. The bar placement is going to set your torso angle. So the high bar will actually allow you to be a little bit more upright, while in the low bar position, you kind of have to be a little bit more lean forward. Rack height can actually save energy. Again, if you have to choose between too high or too low, choose the too low one, because it can actually get you in the best possible setup. Midfoot is your balance point, and you have to always have that third eye just around your side, so you can always make sure that the bar is within your midfoot. And of course, patience is key. Set up slow so you can actually get into the best possible position. I'm going to catch you on the next one.